Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you've enjoyed a cup of tea and some snacks while you've been waiting. It really is it's wonderful to see so many people turn out at what was really quite short notice. And I just value that a community around St. John's is just looking so much and willing to learn new things and find out what's happening on the forefront of a whole lot of different areas. So welcome, thank you for being here. I'm going to ask Kaya Kingston, one of our sixth formers, to introduce Professor Fernando, and then we will hear what he has to say. Looking forward to it. So, Kaya, you can come forward. Thanks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to introduce our speaker tonight, Professor Fernando Buarque. Among other academic achievements, the professor has a PhD in Artificial Intelligence from the University of London, a diploma from Imperial College London on Artificial Neural Networks, and a master's in Computer Science from the Federal University of Pernambuco. He has also studied philosophy of science, neuroscience, and administration, and has led over 100 students in the PhD, MSc, and BSc final dissertations. Buarque has produced over 200 bibliographic products. He is an associate professor at the University of Pernambuco, an IEEE senior member, Alexander von Humboldt Fellow, and accredited researcher by the Brazilian Council of Research. Currently, he has 4 international appointments with Texas A&M, Florida Tech, UJ, and the University of Munster. His current research focuses on computational intelligence, complex and stochastic modeling and simulation, and intelligence and semiotic decision support systems. It is an honor to have you here tonight, sir. Everybody, please welcome Professor.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the introduction. Very professional. I was impressed with the speaker. Okay, so it's a pleasure to be here in such a prestigious school. Certainly, my goal here is not to talk about mathematics of the topic, but I would like to have a general discussion, try to really touch some points, given the importance I suppose everybody agrees that this topic has, and also the fact that we are in this incredible moment of our society, which is a new revolution. I will speak this in a moment. But before we start, I would like to thank the administration of the school. It's really a pleasure to be here, to be helpful. Okay, we from academia should be trying to get out of universities more often. Well, but before we start, let me ask you, who of you have heard about artificial intelligence? Could you raise your hands? Could you look around? So, meaning everybody have heard about it, okay. But who knows what artificial intelligence is? Look around. Okay. Who knows how to do it? Okay. To generate. Okay, so this means that we probably will find something here. Because the objective, as I'm going to present to you, is really to talk about what is this about, okay, and the importance, not necessarily how we should do it. Okay, so that's the deal for these 50 minutes or so. Okay, let me see if this is working. Well, this is the agenda for the talk. I would like to start saying a few introductory words. And then I would like to go for the context and then some definitions and implications. Perhaps a little bit of history. History is always good because without it we cannot, how can I say, regulate the pace for the future. And also provide you with some examples of artificial intelligence or algorithms and also some new applications selected 3 just very unusual ones. And of course, some conclusions that I would like to draw with you together. So that's the plan. Let's start then. So the acknowledgement is obviously it's a pleasure, as I said. St. John's is such a prestigious institution, and it's really an honor for me to be here. My university, which is in Brazil, the northeast part, I'll show you where it is in the map, and to my other university, my South African university, University of Johannesburg. So I am honored to be external visiting professor for this is the 3rd appointment already in the world, meaning that I've been here for quite a while. I even have been to St. John's before, because you know I have common friends here. All right, so let me start with a little bit of a disclaimer, because this is not a scientific talk, as I mentioned, so I would like to talk about philosophy. And in philosophy, sometimes it's very boring for some, but it's very important because it deals precisely with the why question, the why question, not the what, before the what. Of course, there's some practical applications I would like to talk about, and a little bit of demystification, because there are lots of myths involved. And finally, I would not talk about the dangers of AI. Okay, I'm a fan of it, and then you find about the dangers in another place, not in this room. But of course, we can discuss a little bit in the end. I'll just point out what are the highlights, the benefits for society, and all that. Well, you may have seen this picture. Mrs. Henning asked for a picture, and then I said, oh, this is a good one. I organized this, this is a congress I organized with Professor Mar2018 5 years ago. It was the first BRICS Congress ever in computational intelligence. And then we had this robot, and my daughter, Manuela, was there. She was 2 years old, and she was impressed. And I was impressed with her. Look my eyes, not looking to the robot, but to my daughter. And this was really interesting because she was so interested in the robot. Well, but let's talk about AI. And before that, I would like to say that Manuela's dad works with swarm intelligence, evolutionary computation, and computational semiotics. Those are the theoretical areas I work with. Perhaps in the end, you understand a little bit more about those. And obviously, these are the techniques. So the applications of those are in clusterization, optimization, and signal support. So basically, this is what I'm doing now. And let me be a little bit professorial here, just to point out 2 things. Those are the techniques. And the other one, the problem classes. It is important that we see things like that, because sometimes we make a confusion about what are the techniques and what are the application. So the domain of application is very important, but we also have to know some things, and we do have to have competencies and then abilities to apply those competencies in one given group. Well, but before I continue, this robot has a very interesting story as well. The robot is signing the first, we were supposed to buy, my state was supposed to buy this robot. And then I talked to the folks there, why not ask for the robot to sign the contract? And then we organized with the people for the robot to sign. And then we found out that it was the first time in history a robot signed its own setting. But then my state did not buy in the end. It was not a firm option. So it was the first time a robot was pushed as well, okay, by humans. Well, my university is a middle-sized one. We have around 30,000 students. And I am connected with the School of Engineering, which we call Poly. And I am the head of Computational Intelligence Research Group. Our group, this is important to tell in advance, so you start thinking about what AI in practice in academia could could be organized and then how it could be applied. So we have four major areas of application. We work with heuristics. Later on we can discuss a bit. We work with networks or network science. And we work with computational semiotics. But all that's applying into real-world complex problems. So AI, this is the first lesson. This little girl here said that she knows nothing about AI and that she is compiling some lessons. The first one is that AI should not be applied in single problems. Why? Why? Because if the problem is simple, you do not need a powerful tool. Okay? Well, then we apply this at the moment in various areas. iGov, it's not e-government, it's iGovernment, intelligent government. We apply this in e-learning and Industry 4.0. Bear with me that Industry 4.0 is the most important topic we should discuss these days, and I will explain in a minute. Well, and I come from a city called Recife, the state is Pernambuco, and those are the photos of some of the beaches we have there, and the reason my students, they do not show up, yeah, I will change, but I'm just telling you in advance, because otherwise we'll not pay attention to me, okay? So why my students do not show up often in my laboratory? So now you know. Okay, and this is where Recife is located. There is Mar here, and we are almost 7,000 kilometers away from Good. So let's start now about the real core of the talk. Context. I think everything should be understood in its context. And what is the context we have now? The context is the following. The problems we have in our world. First one, lots of people. Yeah, transportation, distribution of anything, in this case, electricity. So the idea here is that the kind of tools we need should be very powerful, because the kind of problems we have are not trivial anymore. Are not problems that we are able to solve on our heads. And I'm not talking about using computers to automatize what we think, because we have done that already. But it's not working anymore. The kind of problems we have, they are so complex that we need something else. And of course, this is AI. Okay, so problems are complexes. The tools we have are very powerful. For example, now we can have, and this is not new, we can have a computer in a stick. So this is a full computer, okay, with everything. You just stick on your TV and then your TV is a computer. Okay, and this is very cheap, by the way, less than $100. On the other hand, we do have this kind of stuff, almost 1,000 servers working together. So this means that you can compute lots of very large chunks of information at the same time. Okay, is one. And the other one means that you can have computer power, because this is a computer which is not a very bad one. It's quadricore, etc. You can have very powerful computation at cheap price and whenever you want. So, in this context, the tools are very favorable as well. Okay, so but something is missing, because we do have complex problems, we have powerful tools, but something is missing, which is new ways to program these computers. New ways. And then comes something important, perhaps some of you have already thought about. When I started a few years back, this gentleman here was very important. You know, some of you know Alvin Toffler. Rings a bell? Well, Alvin Toffler was famous because he wrote a book called The Third Wave. And in that book, he had advanced that we lived in the digital age, but without anybody saying this. Okay, so he was anticipating what were the possibilities and all that. And to me, it was very powerful because, you know, there was a new revolution in humankind. The first one, agriculture; the second one, the two related to industry. Now you have a third human revolution. I was experiencing a human revolution. But then, this guy, 2 years ago, wrote another book, which is The Fourth Industrial Revolution. And then it was really mind-boggling to me, because now within my lifetime, I experienced 2 revolutions. Bear with me, we have 4, but the 2 latter ones have just happened. And the point is that why this is so important, because he wrote this, he's the, by the way, Klaus, he's the coordinator of the forum in Davos, you know, the economic forum. So he knows what is going on. And he's absolutely sure, I mean, actually the 2016 Davos forum, the final report pointed out that we are experiencing a new revolution in humankind. And everything will change very fast. I mean, new kinds of jobs. I mean, the numbers no one knows, but it's something like in 5 years' time, we'll have something like 30 or 40% new kinds of professions. You see? So, this is huge. And then the context is disruptive. This is the message. And if you look around, all major magazines are talking about AI. Okay? Sorry, my throat is not very well. I hope my voice stays until the end of the talk. But the points now, if you put the 4 together, so we have the computers, we have problems, we have everything in place, but people do not know how to use AI. Even professionals in industry, they are not necessarily aware of what we are talking about. Although the demands for AI, they are everywhere, they are ubiquitous. By the way, if you would like to ask questions, I don't mind, so you raise your hand and do ask questions, please. So, what is AI? What is AI? Can you guess this, the 2 gentlemen? What is AI? Yeah.
Basically, a algorithm or a program that can learn by itself.
Well, that's for sure. I would not say one algorithm or so, but you target. It's something that is able to learn. Okay? And why learning is so important, you believe, please?
Because it just allows the computer to pick up on its own mistakes and correct them, but also to process more advanced problems that computers at the current stage cannot process themselves.
So did you hear what he said? So the idea is then that when a computer learns, it need not to be programmed anymore, because it learned. Okay, that's the solution for new problems. And this is amazing, you have to admit, because we are used to this paradigm, which is we program one solution, okay, and this will work fine, fast, in the digital age, third revolution, provided the problem does not change. But we know since Greece that change is the only constant of the universe. But therefore, the idea of program something and keep it frozen, it's not a good one, actually. And right now we can do better, and we are doing that. We know how to do that, how to write a program, because AI is a program, that is able to learn. Okay? AI is a program that is able to learn. Okay. A little bit of fun. So, is there intelligence there? So where is the intelligence there? I did it on purpose. Yes, there are two sources of intelligence. The girl is performing an action, and the dog is performing an action, although it's not dynamic. It's applied. Well, this is good if you don't disagree with me that dogs can be intelligent. Of course, if you had a dog, you know it's intelligent. Right? No discussion. There are people that they claim that humans are the only intelligent beings on Earth. But this is, I'm sorry, very limited. Because by definition, anything can, even a program, we have established that. Really. So, two ones. Now, a rather sad one. There was an accident. This is amazing, isn't it? Can you see the dog is protecting the dog? Well, and how about that? So to lift up your spirits. So the dog wants something in the bath tube, but it's filled with water. He does not want to get wet. And then he plants something. Let's see. Do something for me. So we are talking about another level of intelligence. So, but here you have some definitions of artificial intelligence from prestigious dictionaries. So, for example, an area of computer science that use with given machines the ability to seem like they have human intelligence. So, the human in the center again to copy human intelligence, behavior, intelligent behavior. What is an intelligent behavior? So too vague for a good dictionary. So all these definitions that they are published, they lack quality, in my opinion. So I don't agree with none of them, because they set the human as the paradigm of intelligence. And this is not necessarily the case. There are some algorithms. They can be very intelligent, meaning able to learn, that they are, for example, composed of ant-like processing units, ants. So nothing so more simple than an ant. But when you have it in a colony, it becomes very powerful. Okay? But let's talk a little bit later. So intelligence may include perception, cognition, actuation, purposefulness, objectivity, subjectivity, efficiency, efficacy, effectiveness, consciousness, willingness, autonomy. But none of those means intelligence. They are factors of intelligence. The root of what intelligence means is precisely the ability to learn. On the other hand, intelligence does not mean espionage, understanding, judgment, reflection, cunning, knowledge, wisdom, or skill. But we use those as synonyms for intelligence. So my point with this talk at this moment is just to try to clarify that we're talking about, at least the way I see it, of a much simpler yet powerful ability that the human possesses, but other beings can possess as well, and also computers, programmed in the right manner. Because the problem is exactly that. We treat computers like stupid machines, and then we call them stupid. But look, if you program a computer to do something in a very simplistic way, he obeys your orders, so he does that. So I'm sorry to say that it's stupid, because you are missing an opportunity to use the computer in a much better way. I started the first AI course in my university in 2004, so 14 years ago. That was the definition I used then. So artificial intelligence is an ability possessed by a system to learn from its operation, because it has to learn sometime. There's no magic. Professor Marvala yesterday talked about superstition, that his plan is to help get rid of superstition and exchange it for science. He's the new Vice Chancellor of University of Johannesburg. It was inaugurated yesterday. This was part of his speech. So there is no magic, no superstition here. The learning happens because it has a logic formulation. And of course, this means to adapt so that possible, what was possible to store, to extract from experience, could be later used in similar situation, not in the identical situation. So there is a degree also of flexibility. It's not the case that I will store solutions for problems. I will store knowledge that can be used for that particular situation, but also for situations that are alike. Good. Let me very briefly talk about this comparison between classical, conventional programming and adaptive programming. This is very important. With conventional programming, the programmer writes the script for solving a problem. Therefore, who is the one who solves the problem? The programmer. What is the magic? Quotations. The magic here with adaptive programming is that the programmer writes the script that finds how to solve the problem. You get the difference? So you don't solve the problem. You just construct a solution that is able to find the solution of the problem. And this is very interesting because it's a simple variation in the initial concept that makes it really, in the end, a huge difference. And of course, we can add starts of that. We could write a program to find a solution of the problem, and it's endless. Some people say that what we found as free will is nothing less than this ability that we have in our brain. We don't have programs, by the way. Very, very simple ones, but to deliver this talk, there's no script in my mind. I'm not a robot. Okay, so this is being elaborated, and the point online, and the idea is that you follow some experience, for example, things that you've done in the past, right, so you repeat it more than other attempts. Well, another important difference is that there is no learning. I added a minus sign and a plus sign here just to say what is positive and what is negative. If you see, there are lots of positives here and lots of negatives, but nothing is perfect. Let me briefly comment on it. So there's no learning in conventional programming. Learning is central. No flexibility, flexibility is common. No generalization is common. So what a conventional program has or does better than adaptive programming? So it does not commit mistakes. And the intelligent program does. But we humans, very intelligent, we commit mistakes. We classify things wrong. We anticipate things in the wrong way. Okay? The point is that with time, we get to become good at predicting, at classifying. So the idea is that this ability comes with time. So there is this concept of training an algorithm, which is not the case for conventional one. When you finish the final dot, or semicolon, depending on the language you're talking about, the program is ready to be used in the conventional program. But with the AI one, so when you finish programming, you have to train the program like a baby. Okay? Of course, there are different ways to do that, but it's completely different. You may agree with me. And finally, another important difference is that the other is a piece of engineering. This is a piece of art. When I started a few years back in computer science, there was no such a thing as software engineering. The young people laughed at me. There was no software engineering. Meaning that if somebody approached you and asked for something, you would not say how much and not when you were going to deliver the solution. It was art. If you were good, you could produce nice things in a short period of time. But then comes software engineering, and then you are able now to say, book costs X, and I will deliver Y. Okay? The current state is the same for AI. It depends on the ability of the person, of the practitioner, to produce a good piece and an effective one. It is the current state. Perhaps in the future we will have software engineering for intelligent systems. Okay, any doubts here so far? This is important because from here we are going to build up a lot of stuff. So, what are the implications? First, AI has to be used for large or complex problems, for dynamic problems, problems that change with time, okay? And not necessarily of problems that we know the solution. And this is very important. Bear with me. You are now able to solve problems that you do not know by heart how to solve it. I think we have to pause a little bit because this is quite weird. You are going to solve something, solve a problem, by writing a code that you don't know how to solve the problem, that your code is going to solve. You follow that? It's kind of, there's no magic. Sorry. The other implications are, so machines can learn, meaning that they improve with time, that they improve their performance and so things. Machines can think, meaning that they could have opinions. And machines will take some jobs, because if I have somebody that learns and has opinion, okay, I would like to hire this. And this is one of the problems of AI. It will cause social problems. Of course, people would just move jobs. AI would be replaced. It's like when Ford created the line, the production line. You have to organize the work in a different way. So now it's the same. With AI, people will have to change position because in the end, I'll show you, for example, in legal cases, the computer can be much better than a lawyer, specific ones. Okay? It's not the case that a computer will substitute lawyers. I'm not saying that there is. I'm just saying that there are specific niches that the AI would excel. I'm sorry. Some teasers now. Can man create artificial intelligence? What do you think? Can? Yes, I agree with you. Okay. Can AI be embedded in hardware? Because in software we have already decided it's possible. At least you trust me. Can I put this within the hardware? So there is one rule that you can take away from this talk. It's everything you write in software, you can store in hardware, and vice versa. Of course, it's not so simple, but it's possible. So what are the implications of all that embedded in robots, computers, and even on the internet? Because, of course, if I can put this in software, it can go up to the cloud, okay? And it can move around. So then I would have an intelligent algorithm that is mobile, much faster than us. Because, for example, if I would like to come here, I have to spend 10 hours in a flight. Okay? The AI would not necessarily need to take so long. Can all that be dangerous? So the answers are, at least the ones I think, of course, we can, yes, we can. Well, it's hard to say now because it's too early to predict. But definitely it will make a dent in our society. I mean, when all that is put together, we will have a very different workplace. Back to that discussion about the third revolution. Before, remember the ones that are not so young here could remember how a desk would appear 20 years ago. You had lots of stuff on your desk that you don't need anymore because you now have a computer. Even things like that were very fashionable at the time, like fax machines. Okay, now they are completely obsolete. Nobody uses a fax machine anymore. Okay, but I'm just mentioning that because the third revolution, when the computer showed, it transforms the environment physically. But with this revolution, there will be no such a huge difference. So you stay with your computer. It's not the case that it's going to show up something else. But the services and the stuff and the speed and the quality will be different. We need not to go far. For example, Uber, Airbnb are very good examples of this new revolution. Because Uber, I think in the beginning I used to say, Uber does not have a single car. And they changed their mind, and unfortunately last week the car caused a massive accident. But the initial idea of Uber was not to have cars. Airbnb, they don't have hotels. But the two examples at hand, they are leading in their market segment. This is a new way to deliver service. Okay? This is the kind of very simple examples of what we should expect by use AI. Well, if in the end, perhaps we could give you a hint of how Airbnb or Uber are so good at their job. But let's take the concept for the moment. Is this, could this be dangerous? Yes. Like when we discover or master radiation, okay, or the subatomic particles. It was nice, it was a promise for endless energy and stuff, but we used that in the wrong direction. Okay, so AI could be used in the wrong direction. It's up to us. I'm happy to be here talking to young people because the biggest issue currently in AI is ethics. Because imagine you could in your dorm, produce something that could be really a catastrophe or lead to a catastrophe. This is the stuff we're talking about. So we have to discuss first what we should do with AI. So that's something I would recommend for you to consider to be included in the future syllabus. Because it will be dangerous if we decide so. Okay, now some quests. This I will not answer now. Let's finish, let's try to answer in the end. Why intelligence exists? What is intelligence and what is not? Perhaps this one you have already tried. Who is or can be intelligent? Or how it works? Okay. But let me just point out that the first one is really, maybe the top two ones are the most interesting ones. Because if we know them, we can really produce something new. And innovation is really the buzzword of the moment. We have to produce things that hit the market, that cause a betterment in society. And my point here, you probably already understood that. I'm very fond of AI. I think we can do lots of very good things if we decide so. Okay, so this talk will address especially philosophical and scientific topics, but not in a very deep way. Let's very quickly now talk about history. So, first of all, the discussion of intelligence is not new. I mean, the Greeks, the classical thinkers, were talking about it almost 2,500 years ago. In the medieval time, surprisingly enough, and then in the Renaissance, and even recently. Very quickly now, you know, have you seen this picture? It's a marvelous piece of painting. It's Raphael's School of Athens. So it represents the philosophers at the time. The reason I'm showing this to you, first is because I like it. Second is because in the center there is two figures. You know who are those? Aristotle. But Aristotle was the student. Who was the teacher of Aristotle? Plato. Plato was a student of Socrates. Okay, but my point is that, look, they are disagreeing. Because this man, Aristotle, was very pragmatic. And this one was very philosophical, very idealistic. And this is funny because Western countries are very much influenced by Aristotle. He did a brilliant job laying down the foundation for set theory, for example, and things like that, logics and all that. It was very helpful 2,500 years ago. But the way we think in a very deductive way now is due to him. And I'm sorry to say that we should move on. Move on to induction, for example, which is a much, I would say, powerful mechanism for thinking. You see, this, I'm not saying that Aristotle is the reason we are treating our computers as stupid machines, but he has a bit of a problem there, okay? So, the point is, Aristotle was thinking about intelligence, and he named about lots of possibilities, but so far, so early, the idea of intelligence was completely, because of Plato, completely abstract. Aristotle was trying to ground this, okay, but he did not manage to do because he did not have any kind of device for instantiate ideas. They only discussed. That's why they were philosophers. Although Aristotle is the father of science in general. Well, but the point here is that intelligence was discussed back then. Then in the medieval times, we did discuss, and for the first time, we were talking about the physical body. And this is Avicenna, which was a very famous scholar in the East. And he was famous because he was a doctor. And the hospitals he created are still operating now. Okay, it's amazing. And the point he was famous at the time is because in East culture, they could open up dead people and see what was inside. Whereas in our Western countries, it was not possible. And then he saw the connections of the brain. So there was no value, actually, other than that, but it's fun to say that people, almost 1,000 years ago, were talking about networks, for example. They could not see what was inside because they did not have microscopes. But they were talking about connections. And then this carries on, and I would like just to draw this contrast. So people in ancient Greece, they were just talking about abstract stuff. In medieval times, they were trying to ground. But here, in the Renaissance, the father of science, modern science, which is René Descartes, was talking about how to blend the two. And then the biggest quest René Descartes had was to try to find where the soul was sitting in the brain. And, you know, René Descartes created the scientific method. And he committed a mistake of his own method because he said that the brain has a pineal gland in the center and there was the place of the soul. Of course, we know that it's not true. Well, so intelligence is being discussed because people were wondering how we could think about things and stuff. Even at the modern times, with new tools, for example, like big machines, scanners, we could see the inner structure of the brain. And more than that, we could see a working brain. Because in the past, we could just open up people, dead people, but we could not see operating. Now we know. And of course, all those were breakthrough, but were not sufficient for us to really produce something practical. And we are talking about the 70s. I was lucky enough to be present. George Bush, by the way, the President of the United States, declared the 90s, the decade of the brain. I was lucky enough to be, at the launching of this book of Baroness Susan in Oxford. And she told at the opening speech that the understanding the brain is the final frontier of science, because it's so complicated. It's not the discovery of other planets or stars or things like that. It's to know how our own brain works. Because we know how one neuron operates. We know it very well. A pair of neurons, but then people from physics, they know that this scales up so much that for you to simulate a few dozens of neurons, you require those computers I mentioned to you, the big ones. So we know how the networks operate, the neuron, but we don't know in between what's going on. So it's the final frontier of science. In my thesis, I tried to contribute a little bit on that, but it was yet too simple. But now, in the recent history, that's the second part of the history bit, we have something quite interesting. So, we have the discovery of computers, and at the same time, in the 1940s, people created the artificial neuron. It's funny, because we know we have artificial neurons since the 1940s. But the computers were so simple that they could not do anything. And then Alan Turing, you probably have heard lots of films about Alan Turing and stuff. Alan Turing is the father of computer science, is the father of AI, is the father or uncle of game theory. So he was really, and he was dead, he died very young. So a note on Alan Turing as well. And then 20 years ago, or less than that, the computer beat a chess master. Because this is really important. When I was in university, doing my first degree, the computer was very powerful and stuff, but humans were more intelligent. But 20 years ago, the computer said, no, you are a chess master, but I can play chess. Okay? And we have ASIM. So those are four landmarks that I would like very briefly to show you. So, have you seen the first computer? What is your name? Laurie, have you seen the first computer? This is the first computer. It was so big you could enter. It was the whole floor of a building. And it had, look, those are the figures. Okay? It was so big that it had vacuum tubes that they go off so often that the computer could not operate for a few minutes because one vacuum tube was off and then you have to find out which And it took sometimes some hours for you to understand where. So it was rubbish. So the president of IBM at the time said the world will have a place for 10 of those, 10 computers. I have 10 computers now, you see. But this happened in 70 years or less. Okay? At the same time, these two guys, they are philosophers and the psychologists or mathematicians, put together an artificial neuron operating in a similar, roughly similar manner. And this was really a cornerstone for modern artificial intelligence. The problem is that the computers were not ready yet. We knew the theory, but the computers were not ready. But they are now. Now they are. The prices are right, the technology is right. Of course, it will improve, but it's okay now. This is Alan Turing, was really a remarkable person. Alan Turing, in 1950, wrote a paper, a very famous one, in which he was pointing out that computers could think. Of course, he knew that, but the people at the time were very conservative. And then he put the title of the paper as a question. Can machines think? Of course, he could not solve the problem. Then he operated a trick and said, what if we use a human hidden machine over there, and then he created there the Turing test. I bet some of you have heard about the Turing test. Well, the Turing test was just a means to in a logic way, to prove that computers were able to think. He was not saying that he had a computer at the time, because there were no computers in 1950s that produced any of these. And this is his value, because he was really ahead of his time. Around this period, he wrote an article saying that by the end of the century, nobody would be discussing if computers could think or not. And he was right. He could anticipate. 15 years of discussion. Now, we, probably in this room, nobody would disagree that a computer can think. Do we have somebody? Okay. If so, I could refer you to the paper of Alan Turing, because it's brilliant. It's written in a very elegant English. So if you would like to read, it's really a very good read. Well, this is the second landmark of the recent history. And of course you have Deep Blue. Deep Blue was the computer that beat Kasparov, the Russian chess master. And it was really it was a breakthrough, because then lots of things were possible. I mean, a computer has one of the chess master, then everything, it's possible now. But, you know, it was so embarrassing that Kasparov was really angry. He said that the computer cheated on him. Okay, and then he abandoned the state, the desk. He said, look, the computer cheated me. And he has never been defeated in chess before. So it was a landmark, you may agree with me. And the final one, just to recap this short history, is this robot from Honda called Azimuth. Azimuth is an acronym from Asimov, the guy who wrote the laws of robotics. So Honda picked this up. About Azimuth, what I find is interesting is because nobody is behind it. So this is a footage of Barack Obama playing soccer with Azimuth. There's nobody inside. It's not remote controlled. He's processing, acquiring information, taking decisions. Of course, there were some setups, but the decision was on. And he can carry his own batteries, which was a technical problem. By the way, I like this president so much. I'm not saying anything, I just say that I like this one. Okay, I think the point is there. So, but this is 3 years ago, so imagine what Azimuth is doing now. I have to find out some images. To me, it's an emblem of an era. Okay, so now we do have everything in place. You may remember in the beginning I mentioned the problems and the technology, all set. Of course, Hollywood is always creating some myth about AI. So, for example, I'll talk about 5 villains of AI. Master Control from Tron. So this is Star Trek. This is the machines in the Matrix. And this is Skynet and Terminator. And the biggest villain of all times, a red blinking light. Oh, I was scared when I watched this movie. But you know, actually, I went to the internet, and still today, almost exactly 50 years later, Hall is still in the top 10 biggest villain in human history. It's amazing, right? It's a red blinking light. Well, so but my point here is that Hollywood is creating this bit, and everybody now is afraid of AI. There's nothing to be afraid in AI. You should be afraid of your next door neighbor, or you see, that's why we should discuss ethics. Well, let's move on now. Almost there. Some examples of algorithms. So, which ones do you program? You mentioned that you guys program something. Which one? Neural nets. And you? Neural nets. So, I'm talking about 8 different families. Neural nets is one of them. Well, there is ways to discuss this. So, for example, AI is an umbrella for families of approaches. I just linked here a few of them. For example, you could have strong AI versus weak AI. Strong AI is the one that tries to copy the human. Weak AI is the one I work with. I don't care if my algorithms resemble human. I am very much interested if they solve real-world problems. Classic versus materialistic, AI and CI, for example, computational intelligence is, although it's a type of, but it's a different one. Symbolic and sub-symbolic. I use this one. Symbolic is when the information is stored in a way that you can see and make sense of it. For example, like a rule. But if this, then that. So you can understand there is a symbol. But in a neural net, you don't have any meaning for weights. Okay? One weight does not mean anything. Even a neuron does not mean anything. You know, our brain, I'll explain later, is composed of lots of neurons. 100 of billions of neurons. This is quite a lot. So let's try to divide, at least for you to name, when you leave this room, take families and approaches of AI. So in the symbolic realm, you would have expert systems. By the way, I will not talk about symbolic because it would take too long. I will just talk about the sub-symbolic bunch. So 4 here, 4 there. Expert system is probably the oldest group of algorithms. Basically, you try to mimic what the mind of an expert on a problem thing, and then you incorporate in a base or a set of rules or a set of cases that can help in the future solution of problems. Then you have decision trees. For example, doctors, they are taught even today to think about like that. If this, then that, and then you create a decision tree for you to categorize what the patient actually has as a disease. Okay? And then you have Bayesian networks, which is basically probability. And then in a statistic approach, you would infer what are the most likely options for your problem. And fuzzy logic. The point of fuzzy logic is that there is no means using fuzzy logic for you to be intelligent. So I listed here because I'm sorry. Fuzzy logic can be used with all the other ones. It's like the ricotta. You know this cheese ricotta. It does not taste anything. But when you mix with olives, it's perfect. When you mix with, so it's like ricotta of AI. It's fuzzy logic. Okay, so it's very good. It increases the ability of producing good results. And the reason is because this is a generalization of Aristotle's set theory. Because you remember that if you have an element, it could be only inside or outside of a set. But with fuzzy, it could be like ages, for example. Am I young? A little bit. Old? More than young. And then this flexibility helps us to produce better results in our classifications, our predictions. So fuzzy is very good. But let's dig a little bit more in the other group, the sub-symbolic part. Neural nets, for example, is in here. So it's the first one, neural computation. So the formal name is artificial neural networks. Artificial immune system, yes. So we do have an immune system, and then we, from computational intelligence, we are just copying nature, because there's no copyright for you to be accused of it. Then we are looking around and writing code. This is a good idea. Evolutionary computation basically uses Darwin's theory of evolution. And the new kid on the block, not so young, but swarm intelligence. Yes, swarm intelligence. Intelligence of ants, of bees, of fish. Those are supposed to be stupid, but in a set, they are very intelligent. Well, for me not to only be talking very briefly, I select these four and I'll dig a little bit down. So, as I said, in this paradigm of neural nets, and now I'm talking a little bit of how, because so far it's why and what, but here a little bit of how. So, you know, a neuron is a very simple cell. It does not do anything complex. I mean, even feeding, it's produced, the food is produced by other cells, support cells. The metabolism is very simple because it's just evolution setting to be like that. So the response is very fast. Okay, and neurons are they can be excited, and there is a barrier, and if this barrier is crossed, then it fires. Basically, this is it. And then you put 100 billion of those, and we end up like us. Okay? But the neurons in our brain, it's so funny to say this. If you were able to unfold the brain, to unfold it, will be, I don't know, in South Africa, do you use, for the sheet of paper, do you use numbers like A4? Okay, so you could literally have four A4 sheets and hang it. 4 millimeters, this is we. 4 millimeters, 4 A4 sheets, that is our brain. All the inside, or most of the inside, is cholesterol and connections. It's like wires. But we have the new connections there. And why we are so complex then? We are not complex. We are able to perform complex computation because each neuron is connected to up to 100,000 others, or most likely 10,000 others. Meaning that it's a highly interconnected way of storing information as well as producing results when stimuli come. You know what I mean? So this is a very nice inspiration. And then guys like me looked at this and said, look, this is so nice, let's write a code. You see, I'm not solving any problem. I'm just copying nature like crazy. Oh, this is good. How nature does this, I won't use that. So, but the center point here is to use the concept, the mathematical concept of weight. So like average weight, in which the weights, when they are carefully controlled, the results are produced in a way that is suitable for the problem you're trying to solve, in an automatic way. Okay? And then the inspiration is the human brain. The basic mechanisms are the ones I mentioned to you. You have neural pathways, etc. These family could be used for classification, forecast. If you have a problem in which you would like to forecast something, for example, if you have a table with your 8 heights, okay, you say, for example, 7 years old, that height, 8, this height, 9, this height. But then 10, you don't know. But you would be able to know if you train a neural net. So that's a good exercise for that experiment. You see, you can produce results that you don't have now. Okay? One would say that, but I can solve this kind of problems with traditional methods. Yes, you can. But when the problem grows, for example, when you have 1,000 variables, because in this problem I mentioned, you have just 2 variables, the year and the height. Okay? And you were trying to forecast the following. But the kind of problems we are talking about is 1,000 variables plus 1,000 y's and x's, 1,000 x's and 15 y's. So this is really powerful. And then the analytical approaches, they do not work. Or they last so long that you have to change your methods. And this is one point for you to decide to use neural networks or AI. Okay, I'll be faster now. So, I've discussed that. In our laboratory, we created something. I'll skip this. We work with this. So we have applications on that. The second one, artificial immune systems. You know that we are prepared by nature to fight against diseases that we even do not know they exist. Which is remarkable, because there is 10 to the power of 18 diseases. And when we are born, we have just 10 to the power of 6 prototypes of solutions. You know what I mean? So this is a big gap. So there are much more diseases than we are able to cope. And the fact that we are still here alive means that this system is very good. So what does this system do? Basically, it has a memory, and the memory of the system, there is something that I'm pretty sure that you're going to learn. Have you heard about thymus? Or thymus? I'm very glad to say that you have this organ. It's an organ. You have it. It's in here. It's in here. In babies, it's like a fist. As big as a fist. What's the function of this? Is to store all the prototypes of solutions that were okay for coping with diseases. It's amazing, isn't it? It's like a database. So when a new disease comes, the system it operates like a computer. It says, okay, let me see if I have this one. And then, okay, I have. The system produces or more of that solution, and then you even not get it. But for example, if you get another one that it's not stored there, the system gets into overdrive called fever, so that every degree in your body temperature increases your metabolism 10%. So it means that all the cellular copies, etc., run up to 30% faster. Otherwise, more than that, you can die because your proteins in your brain just melt. So it's not a good idea to put something. Let's overdrive 50%. No, it's not. Okay, but the idea here is that you do have a database, so the information is stored there. You have cells that are able to identify, to bear with me, to compare how different is the new body and the ones you have stored. If it's too different, it will select new features and to try to cope with that in the least space of time. Normally, for example, a neurosis takes 3 days for the whole project. If it's completely new, like the one I have even now, so because I'm South Africa, so I'm not, my team is not equipped with some of the stuff we have here, so it's taking a longer period of time. But this is quite nice, you see, because we do have a mechanism which is natural, and it's able to produce results for things that it was not programmed before. It's the very definition of AI, this one, for example. Okay? Well, and then let's skip over. These are very good for classification, and for you not to think this is just science. For example, we use this principle in our lab to detect intrusion in a Wi-Fi network. Because you see, you have a network, so the profile of people that access the network is kind of regular. But if there is a different access profile, then you are able to find out and to take measures. Okay? So we use this principle and we are applying this into real problems. Okay, I have to skip a little bit because I'm the third one out of 4 is evolutionary computation. You have heard about Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin was one of the most influential scientists we had because he proposed this idea that there is an evolution of species, and what happened is that the fittest really has more chances to survive. It's funny because in Portuguese, the verb fit can be adaptable and also be strong. But, you know, there, lots of people say that the survival of the fittest means the survival of the strongest, which is completely wrong. So it's the survival of the most adaptable. You see, it's not the taller and the stronger, it's the ones that can adapt to the changes in the environment. For example, when the dinosaurs were extinct, the small animals were the ones that were more prone to reproduce because there were no food was scarce. You see, and then the environment became more abundant and we grew up. Humans, for example, are much taller than we were before. And this is because of an evolutionary principle. Well, then we copy this and we produce a very interesting kind of algorithms. I think you should try this for classification problems. It's brilliant. The idea is that you borrow features from one parent and features from another. You merge some of them, like here. For example, imagine this is one parent, this is another. The numbers here, I'm sorry, are characteristics. For example, 0 could be other representations, just for the sake of it. 0 could be having an ability or not having an ability. Okay? And then the siblings would be combination of this with that. But imagine that, for example, you would like to find the best organization for classes. And then you have constraints, for example, and the constraints would be represented here and there. And this process will produce the best organization for classes in your school automatically, which is a problem for you, I bet. Okay, but you have these guys who could just deliver this task. Okay, it's not difficult, not difficult. So this is based on the evolutionary computational paradigm. This inspired the natural evolution, and also the mechanisms I explained very briefly here. So here the problems are search, in this case, for example, And if you would like to include things like lots of constraints, and I would like to use more this room than the other, then becomes optimization. So evolution computation is very good for optimization. We use that, for example, for enhancing the quality of executive decisions. Sorry, I don't have time to go into detail, but we managed to find out the best solutions given the setup, the current setup. And we compared these with even solutions of human beings, and they vote for the solution of the computer. Finally, another family, I'm talking about families of algorithms. When I talk about swarm intelligence, I'm talking about hundreds of different algorithms. For example, in our lab we create one, which is fish school search. And the idea here is that you do have very simple units that are able to explore one search space, and they communicate by different means. And by doing so, they avoid looking up in every possibility. This is very clever. Nature does this with ants, for example. If you put some sugar here, I don't know how the ants do that, but in a few period of time there will be lots of ants. And they find the shortest route. Okay? But this is due to this parallelism implicit in the way they communicate their success. For example, bees, you know that bees dance. Have you seen the bees dance? It's incredible because a bee could inform where there is a vase with flowers 80 kilometers away. And it's something like in a few seconds. I don't know, it's really incredible how nature evolved this communication skills. But we are doing this, we are copying those mechanisms. And we are using this into complex problems. This is the stuff we are trying to do. Okay, I'll skip this. I'll show you, for example, this is a result of one of our algorithms. Imagine that the red parts are protruding from the screen, are peaks. And then you don't know them. Of course, it's there just because I would like to show you that our algorithms are able to find those. Look how fast they do. Can you see the black dots? So I have lots of fish, in this case it's fish. Could be particles, could be ants, could be lots of different metaphors. Then I will start it. And then you are going to see that the search is in parallel. And I add a little bit of difficulty because from time to time the environment will change. And then I need not to reprogram anything. They will say, okay, well, it was so good here, it's not anymore, let's move on. Oh. Perhaps I will increase the size for you to see it in a better way. You see how fast it was? Of course, this is a 2D search. Can you see one dimension and the other? The third one is the objective function, the stuff I'm looking for. Again, some guys that program in a conventional way, they say, no, but I can write a code that finds this. The point I want to make is that for 2D, perhaps it's not a good idea to use AI, but if you have 100 dimensions, not 3, 100, then the number of combinations is so large that your program will take months to find the solution. And this one takes seconds. So the scalability of AI is a point. Okay? Go ahead. Now 3 examples and we are done. I selected, look, bear with me, I spoke, I tried to be as fast as I could about techniques, but let's talk about problems. I selected 3 very unusual problems, not the regular ones. For example, legal robots, semantic web, self-driving cars. These are actually services that are being offered on the internet. So the first one, if you are in London or New York, so you hire this robot and he will get rid of your fines. He knows how to argument with the Department of Transportation. Okay? It's funny, isn't it? This was written by a 19 years old dog. Look, a good idea for you. 19 years old, and the guy already boasts that he had saved $4 million in fines. This is a service on the internet. This is another service on the internet. If you would like to, for example, what is this? Instant error check, compare, and those are compare and collaborate, look or analyze risk. This is completely done automatically. And this is online, it's offered now. So meaning that if you were a lawyer doing this kind of stuff, so it's better find another job. Okay, because this is cheap and effective. Example number 1. Example number 2, this is quite interesting. We use internet quite a lot, but we still type the stuff we are looking for. Alright? If I want a hamburger, for example, I type hamburger and then it shows up lots of pictures of hamburger. But this is not how we think. It's like in the past, the old phones. Remember the old phones, you have to remember the numbers, but this is completely inhumane. Because if I want to talk to you, why should I memorize numbers? Okay, now things are, I just touch your face. It's not. So the idea is that the internet is in that generation before. You have to type stuff, hamburger and stuff. Now, this is a problem that you can only solve with AI. It's called semantic web. So you show a picture and then you receive lots of similar pictures. This is an app you could install in your iPhone. There are others for Android. What I'm going to show you is this run. Let's hope. So there is a hamburger there. Look the classification. It seems nobody told it's a hamburger. This is fast because donuts looks like a donut. But look this. Look this. Seems like a bread pudding, tiramisu, and it becomes indecisive. In the end, it finds out.
Ice cream.
Look this. Chocolate cake, cannoli, tiramisu. But in the end,
Chocolate cake.
but it still has some doubts. Have you seen? I don't know if you've seen the numbers. 91% chocolate cake and the other one. It was a doubt. That's precisely what I mentioned to you before. Because we humans, we became indecisive sometimes. Okay? So this is a very, I would say, big change in the internet, because you would not need to type stuff anymore. And the final example, okay, by the way, you will be spotted in the crowd. In the future, there is no privacy in this fourth industrial revolution. No privacy. Because you will be, the big brother will know where you are. In my city, for example, we already know where the cars are. We collect some information about the license plates, and then, for example, if you owe something, at least the authorities know that you owe and where you are. Okay, it looks scary sometimes, but I tend to observe that from the the right perspective. But anyway, we have to be prepared for that. And then the self-driving car. I just presented the movie because let me just stop a little bit here. 2 months ago, this company that used to be Google Cars is now part of Alphabet, which is another company, sister company from Google, obtained the authorization to operate in the US. It's like Uber without a driver. But this is now operating. Oh, sorry. I just spoiled it. But it's in the future, it will be a crime for you to drive, because the cars will drive much better than humans. But let me show you the video. That's the name of the company. Probably in the near future you will have it here. Because the technology is cheap. AI is cheap. It's nothing that compared with the past. And then, as I said, this is authorized a few months ago, 1.5 months ago, so it's very new. So finally, sorry if I took longer than planned, I would like to offer a thought from one of the, I think, brilliant minds that is still alive. This is the quote from Noam Chomsky. Noam Chomsky was asked if machines could think like Johannesburg. So the reply was, thinking is a human feature. Will AI someday really think? That's like asking if submarines swim. If you call it swimming, then robots will think yes. Okay? I like this very much. So the meaning, for the ones that probably did not get yet, is that the computer will never think like a human. Never. Because it need not to go to the toilet. You see, it does not feel hungry. So those are things that influence the way we think. But they will think in a more abstract manner. They would do things that are similar to ours. So, regarding the quest I said in the beginning, so the answers are straightforward. Yes, why intelligence exists? To improve our odds. I often, at this stage, ask a very controversial question. Do you think God is intelligent? No. Do you think? But look, if he is intelligent, he has something to learn. Do you think it has something to learn? So he's not intelligent. Okay, we agree on that. And I think intelligence is a sign of our weakness, not our strengths. We are incomplete. Okay, so what is intelligence? The ability to learn. Who can be intelligent? Everything. Okay? Basically, you need to have a memory and a mechanism to acquire knowledge. How it works? Well, I talked to you about very briefly about four the subsymbolic ones, but as a matter of fact, we do have a course on that. It's a one semester course, so I don't expect that you understood. Don't feel bad about that. Pause for dreaming. Let's dream. So imagine if we now join supercomputers, this mobility and the ability also to go online in the clouds. So that is very good, provided we wrote the right programs, because otherwise that would be very bad, very dangerous. Another and final pause for reflection. Do you know, have you seen this picture? This is Michelangelo's work, the creation of Adam. It's in the Sistine Chapel. And what I like about this is because it wants to represent the divine touch, where God gave man things. As a matter of fact, I copied this from one of your shopping centers. There are something good in this floor. I like this very much. Because this is Michelangelo's idea of being God. Because he said that when he saw a block of marble, he would like to free up the angel inside of it. So meaning that the artist would be acting like God for that piece of marble. Now, I think that we are specifically on that point. Okay? We are giving life to robots. Okay? And then the point is that, are we not continuing the creation? It's like a delegation from God, and then we are passing on these abilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have a little bit of time for questions. If anybody would like to ask anything, maybe a few gentlemen on the side over there.
Good evening, sir. So the question that I have is just that since artificial intelligence is a relatively new development in academia, for someone who's willing to pursue a career or research in that field, what degree do you suspect is best at preparing them for that?
Well, artificial AI, I'm from computer science, by the way. Artificial AI sometimes is perceived as something of computer science. But you could do it if you come from engineering. You could work with it if you are from psychology, philosophy, because there's a huge research in philosophy of the mind. I have lots of former research students that are not from areas from STEM sciences. For example, the most recent graduate I had was a medicine doctor. And then it's interesting because obviously I don't want for them to write new code, but in the case of that particular student, he produced a means to help doctors to not make a mess on the diagnosis of diseases, because you refer to diseases in a different way. And then he used, for example, fuzzy systems and all other classification methods to avoid this confusion of terms. And end up to having a better diagnosis. So the answer is in the long run. The answer is, if you would like to develop algorithms, I mean STEM plus C, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics plus C, which is computer science, STEM plus C, that's the safest bet. Because then you would be able to really develop things. But if you would like to go more on the philosophy of it, so please do come from other fields, because this cross-fertilization of sciences is really very healthy.
Professor, are there any quantum computer algorithms that offer a significant advantage in any of those four families of approaches you discussed?
Well, I might be misinformed, it's not my area, but at the moment we do have quantum programs, but not a quantum computer. This is funny, because people are already programmed a quantum computer when it comes, but what we can do is we can, again, copy nature and use this uncertainty principle to use in regular computers. This is the moment. Professor would like to speak about it. But the point is that the answer is yes and no, because it is quantum. Yes, because you can have some benefits, but they are very limited yet. But this is my huge, how can I say, outreach. I think the fifth human revolution will be the quantum computer. When it arrives, that will be a breakthrough. Because, for example, just as you asked, if we do have a quantum computer, there is no need for the internet anymore. Can you see this? Because you see, you know from physics, if you spin one here and the other will spin automatically, regardless of the distance. Okay, so there's no need for wires for communication and stuff. So that would be, and the good news is that I might see it, because the revolutions are reducing the interval. Perhaps the fifth industrial revolution will be within the next 15 years, who knows. The point is that there is a technological breakthrough that we have to trespass. Yes, please.
I feel like I have to ask that question because throughout your presentation you speak of the great advantages of artificial intelligence and how you want them to solve problems without having to physically reprogram it each time. Now, let's say, for example, we task this fancy new AI with solving the world's problems, like how do we stop global warming and etc. And it comes to the conclusion that we're the problem, or why would you like
I have bad news for you, because we are the problem. Race is the biggest plague on Earth. Okay? No other species, single species, have created more damage to the environment other than us.
But I mean, besides just, obviously we are artists, and I see that, but you not see the full scope of the dangers of AI. Because now, because of their high processing speed and stuff, eventually, if we get it to think like the human, get it to recognize that it is alive in a sense, then.
Look, this is a very nice question. Very nice. The point is, as Newton said, It's a matter of reference, point of reference. What is the risk of AI? The risk of AI is if there is a supercomputer controlling everything, and it finds the conclusion that we are the biggest plague on Earth. It will kill us, okay? But this is good for the planet. So it's a matter of reference.
I just have a question that, with the example of the Facebook AI that they attempted to create, where it defined its parameters and decided to create its own language, how would one prevent AIs from doing that in the future, given that a basic AI at this level already was defining its programming?
There is a Greek philosopher called Heraclitus. Heraclitus said that you should not stop the river. Okay, it's impossible. The river flows. You should not prevent AI from doing things. Perhaps you should encourage it to do some things. This is what I think. That's why I think the biggest homework for us educators is to include ethics in the curriculum, because that will save us.
Just something I've noticed from just the talk on AI, by giving robots the ability to think and to solve problems on their own, and to eventually have them driving cars for us, doing things that we wouldn't do, and them solving more complex problems, is that not taking away the chance for humans to think and to learn from their mistakes, and eventually we'll just all become really dumb and these robots will take over everything. That's just how I'm seeing it, and then eventually they'll just take over the world. What's going to stop from them thinking and solving things, and us not learning to drive a car, learning to solve some problems, and then to solve them?
I think the main point I was trying to make is you mentioned that intelligence is used for improving the odds of survival.
Yeah, I do.
And if we lose our ability to be intelligent, the ability to continuously learn, because the robots do it for us, we're not then lessen our odds, decrease our odds of survival, which is actually counterproductive.
Yeah, in the long run. Yes. Look, the point is, although it seems very fancy, so far AI has a human. Okay, so although you do not program the solution, you set which problems should be solved. This is one point that is still in our hands. You got that? So AI will not do things, select a problem to solve. We apply this, and we need not to tell it how to solve the problem, but the selection of problems still a human prerogative. I think this handover has to be very careful, because I'm not joking. If we allow to a system that really is intelligent, perceive what it should do, okay, the decision to kill is a possibility. For example, the cars, these self-driving cars, they have, I don't know exactly how to express this, but they have a region in their code, which is to say, yes, I will kill one person rather than two. It's a philosophical decision, you see, but it's in a restricted domain. For example, the car that killed a pedestrian in the US last week or so, the point is that it was not an error. It was just simply almost impossible, the time of reaction, because there was a driver. In these initial tests, there is always a human. He's not touching on the wheel, but even the human did not react fast enough, because it was dark, it was in a highway, there was no crossing lines, and then suddenly this person comes out of the dark, okay, in the middle of the highway, so not a human would prevent this accident, okay? But it might be the case in a controlled environment, if you have two people there, one here, okay, the decision is to kill one rather than two. Okay? The problem is this handover. And what worries me is because very intelligent people is worried about. To be honest with you, I just think Elon Musk is the one that is not afraid of AI. All the other bunch is Bill Gates, all the other ones. And probably because they know human nature. This is my guess.
Thanks. I think we're really going quite over time. There's 2 hands left if we could take those questions. But can you imagine a car manufacturer sitting in a car where they advertise that they'll save the most number of people and the passenger isn't the most important person they're going to save? Who's going to buy the car?
Well, sorry, if I may, imagine if you are the customer of the company, so all the intelligence will be to protect the customer, okay, not to the benefit of the ones around. You know what I mean? So it will protect you, but will kill others. That's a moral decision as well. Yeah.
Do you think that the growth and influence of AI, especially regarding the self-driving cars, could potentially be detrimental to third world economies? Like example, South Africa, we have a very big taxi culture. So then do you think that could potentially be hurtful to our economy when self-driving cars become a must versus people driving?
Well, this is a very difficult question to ask. First of all, I don't think we should have grades for words, first, second, third. Of course we do have. But if we did not have it, okay, the impact would be the same. In the scenario like the one you described, obviously the impact on less developed economies would be greater. The problem is that, and then I think governments have to be very careful on their permissions and stuff. Because I don't like very much the government to be fiddling with details of the economy. But I am no fan of the minimum state because of that. Because if the state does not control the forces, okay, you may end up having a group of people completely unprotected. In the ideal world, I would be very fond of the minimum size state. But this is not what we see. So this is the long answer. The quick answer is yes, it will hit hard. But the point is, you have to be quick to see where you are going to put these people working to. Probably maintaining the cars or doing something else. But this is irreversible, in my opinion. You will not be able to change it. It's a rerun.
Last question.
I said, I just want to ask, how do you define ethics? Because it's just a parameter which you...
Oh, at the end, I'm very tired to come with this stuff. There is no definition for ethics, because ethics is a very subjective thing. Everyone has its own moral code. What happens is that when we live in society, we somehow average, you see. But I always would like to refer to a Brazilian called Anísio Teixeira, who was an educator as well as a thinker. And he used to defend very much the good quality public free education. Because he said that on those environments, you would be able, only there, you would be able to produce real democracy. And why I'm saying that? Because in real democracy is an environment, the understanding of a common concept of ethics would emerge without unbalances. You see? But unfortunately, this is not the world we've lived at. This is not. Therefore, there will be ethics from St. John's, ethics from the other schools. Okay? What we have to try is really to accommodate the differences, to focus on the commonality, the stuff that unite us, which is the human race, for example. And when I feel forums in South Africa, I feel very, how can I say, not at ease, because you say, what is your race? I say, human race. Yeah, but of course, I understand the historical reasons, but my point is that you have to wonder that there's no single standard for ethics. That's why we should really discuss it, so that we come up with a minimum area in which we agree. In this scenario I mentioned to you, it would be fundamental, because otherwise people would say, no, I'm doing something which is nice, but nice for him, not or for the company, but not for the society.
Can I ask Matthew Wang to come and say, give our thanks?
Professor Buarque, on behalf of St. John's, I would like to thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to share with us how innovation in numerous fields of technology, from Alan Turing's first code-breaking machine to our modern understanding of biology, has revolutionized the way that we perceive artificial intelligence. And for a school that is steeped in both tradition and history, it is both refreshing and intriguing for us to be exposed to technology that will truly revolutionize our future. And it has been both an honor and a pleasure for you to listen to me tonight. So please, on behalf of St. John's, accept this token of our appreciation.
It is dependent on the country.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to apologize. I get carried away because of the time. But the topic is really, to me, it's very, how